Hello, hello. This is Kevin from the Legacy TE dev team, and I'm here to teach you how to add new costumes to Legacy TE 2.5. The process is substantially different from previous versions of Legacy TE and even from Project M itself. So don't be afraid to work along with this video, watch this video multiple times, or to experiment with the new features and structures provided in Legacy TE 2.5. Before we begin, there are a few things that you will need. A copy of Legacy TE 2.5, Brawl Crate version 0.26 or newer, the PAC costume files you are adding, and their cosmetics, their character selection portraits, battle portraits, and stock icons. Brawlbox is not compatible with this process. While not required, a full copy of the cosmetics standardization project is recommended. In the description are download links for these, as well as 3 other links that may prove useful. The costume sheet is a quick reference for every costume in the build. The naming restructure sheet is a quick reference for the new file names. And the blog post goes into much further detail about how these processes work, why we chose them, and their limitations. This video will be divided into multiple parts. First, I'll cover adding a net new set of costumes to a character. Second, I'll add a recolor to an existing set of costumes. And third, I will replace a costume already in Legacy TE. Each of these processes requires slightly different actions, but there is a lot of overlap. As such, for the latter processes, I will only be covering the new steps, building off of what is shown for the first one. So please, watch this video all the way through without skipping ahead. Now enough with the intro. Let's actually get into this. To show how to add a set of net new costumes, I will be giving Fox a new alternative costume and team set, James McCloud by Bazazaron with team colors by Mock. To start, I highly recommend opening 2 file browser windows side by side, one to Legacy TE and the other to the assets for the costumes you are adding. In the Legacy TE window, navigate to Info, Costume Slots. This new folder now contains all of the Masquerade costume data for each character. Let's take a quick look at the text file provided in this folder. This text file lists which character's data is saved within which mask file, along with some other information down at the bottom. Find the character you are adding costumes to, and open the corresponding mask file in Brawl Crate. In our case, Fox uses the file 07.mask. In the mask file, there is a data entry for each of Fox's current costumes. Each data entry has 2 values, its costume ID, which is the number at the end of the PAC costume file name, and its color. The color value only matters if the costume is part of a team set, red, green, or blue. Brawl used this data for tourney mode, but Project M, and therefore Legacy TE, do not use this information. I like to make the colors accurate to keep track of which costume is which when looking in the mask file, but it only practically matters for identifying if a costume is part of a team set. To add new costume slots, right-click on the parent entry and select New Entry. Since I am adding 4 costumes, I will be adding 4 new entries. I want to make this costume set in the 30s in order to keep the fighter folder organized. More on Legacy TE's new costume numbering philosophy in the blog post in the description. So I'm changing the first new entry's ID to 30, and the default gray color actually works for James's default outfit. The next entry I want its ID to be 31, and this will be the red team costume. The next one will be 32 for the green team, and the last one will be 33 for the blue team. Once you have these slots, IDs, and team costumes set up how you'd like, save and close this file. Navigate to the fighter folder for the character you are adding costumes to. I'm copying the name of an existing costume just to save a bit of typing. Go to where the costume files you want to add are, and rename them to match the information we just put in the mask file. Default will be 30, red 31, green 32, and blue 33. Now you can add those files to the Fighter folder and move on to Cosmetics. Starting with the character selection portraits, go to Menu 2 and open the SC Cell character file. Expand the blue Carbus text folder and navigate to your character's MISC data, which in our case is 6. Since our costumes are at the end of Fox's current costume slots, copy the name of the final texture and rename the new CSPs with each one being one higher than the previous costume. Therefore, in this case, default will be 76, red 77, green 78, and blue 79. Right-click on the MISC data and select Import Color Smashable Textures. Select all of the new CSPs and import them at once. Say yes to putting them through the Color Smash tool. The default 256 colors is what you want for CSPs. Wait for Brawl Crate to seemingly glitch out. And the new textures can be found at the bottom of the Textures folder. Before quitting, right-click on the MISC data and select Export. Save this BRES wherever you'd like. I like to put it with the CSPs for organization's sake, and then you can save and quit. We exported that MISC data to make adding the portraits on the results screen very simple. Go to Menu, Common, Carbus Text, and find the file for the character you want. The number should match the number of the exported MISC data. Copy the name of the RSP file, rename the MISC data to it, and replace the existing file with the exported one. Open up the file, and this extended LZ77 compression needs to be set to none, otherwise the game will crash at the results screen. I always like to double check that all the textures are here, and then you can save and quit. Now for stock icons. They need to be put in multiple locations, and doing them in a set order makes the process both faster and easier. We want to start with the stocks that appear in the HUD during multiplayer matches. Go to Info 2 and open info.pack. In MISC Data 30, find the character that you're adding costumes for, and, since we're adding costumes to the end, we will copy the name of the last stock and rename our stock icons similarly to how we did with the CSPs, adding one per each costume in the order we put them in the mask file. Once they are renamed, right-click on the MISC data, select Import Color Smashable Textures, and select all the stocks. Say yes to the first prompt, but change the second prompt from 256 colors to 32. This needs to be done for any stock icons being added. After importing all of the icons, right-click on each one and click Generate Pat 0. This needs to be done for every new stock icon added to info.pack. Without this, they will not have the correct palettes in-game. Once that's done for the stocks being added, right-click on the inf stock face file and export it. I like to keep it near the stocks for organization. Now you can save and quit. For the stocks in the results screen, go to Stage, Melee, Stage Result. On Windows and Mac OS, typing stgr while in the Melee folder will bring you right to this file. Expand the Blue 2 file and go to MISC Data 120. Here we want to add the stocks just like we did for the HUD stocks. You don't need to rename them again, just import them as color smashable textures and change the number of colors to 32. Once that's done, open MISC Data 110, go to amtextpat, find the infstock face file, right-click, and replace it with the file exported from info.pack. Manually generating pattern animations for stocks in stage results puts them in the wrong location, and therefore the stocks will not load the generated palettes if done that way. Replacing the file in MISC Data 110 not only ensures that doesn't happen, but is both faster and easier. Once that's done, right-click on MISC Data 120 and export it. Then you can save and quit. The next two stock locations are for single-player modes only. If you do not plan on playing any single player modes, you can skip these two. But for the sake of completeness, I will be showing them. Go to Menu, Common, and copy the name of stock face text. Go to the exported MISC data from the results screen and paste in the name. Now replace the old stock face text with the new one, and stocks will show up in the HUD in single player modes. No need to be concerned with the pattern animations, those are only used for the multiplayer HUD and the results screen. Next, go back to SC cell character and replace MISC data 90 with the new stock face text. Then you can save and quit. The process for battle portraits is unchanged from previous Legacy TE and Project M builds. Go to Info, Portrait. Here, there are hundreds of files whose numbers perfectly match those from the stock icons we did earlier. You could copy and rename any of these files you want. However, I like to copy the one above where the new BPs are going just to be sure I'm in the right place. Since we are adding 4 BPs, I'm pasting the file 4 times. I like to rename them as I go so I don't lose track of which BPs I've already added. Rename it to the corresponding stock number, again in order from the mask file. Open the file, and replace the texture. Repeat for as many BPs as you need. And with that, our net new costumes and the cosmetics have been added to our custom Legacy TE build. To show how to add a new recolor to an existing group of costumes, I will be adding Waluigi Mario by Mo to Mario Standard Set. Go to the Costume Slots folder and find the character you're looking for. Mario is 00, so we'll open that file. We will be adding the Waluigi costume to the end of Mario's Overalls costumes. And take note that the file name numbers are not in order here. The order of these data entries is the order the costumes will show up in the character select screen, so the order of these files is very important. Right-click on the top item and add a new entry. Change the costume ID of the new entry to whatever you want the new costume files named. For me, it's 07 to have the file grouped with the other overalls costumes. And, just to reiterate, the color does not matter unless it is a team set. I still like to make the color accurate for my own organization, but that's not necessary. Now this file needs to be moved to the proper place within the other costumes. Just click and drag it to the spot you want it to be in. Once everything's in order, you can save and quit. The fighter file is the same as before. Just rename it to match the new mask data, and put it in Mario's Fighter folder. Result screen portraits and battle portraits also function exactly as they did for adding net new costumes, so I will not be covering them again. Character selection portraits and stock icons can be added by using one of 2 methods, each with its own benefits and drawbacks. The first method, called the single set method, is to re-import all the textures of that set as one color smash group. This results in the lowest file size, but is the most time-consuming and may result in lower quality textures. The second method, the multi-set method, is done by importing the new textures as their own color smash group while leaving the original ones alone. This may result in higher quality textures and is less time-consuming, but comes at the cost of file space. I would recommend the multi-set method whenever possible, but there are limitations that may require the single set method. A detailed explanation of those limitations can be found in the blog post in the description. To do the single set method for character selection portraits, open SC cell character, expand char bust text, and go to the MISC data for the character you are adding costumes to. Unlike with the masquerade data, it is the file name of these textures that determines the order they appear in game. As such, we will want to rename all the textures we want to come after the new ones. You want to increase the number in the existing textures names that will appear after the new textures by the number of costumes you are adding. Since we are only adding 1 CSP, we will add 1 to the name of each texture that will come after the new one. We want this costume in the 7th slot, so the name we want the new file to be is 007. Since we need to rename the existing 007, I just copy it before renaming it. Rename the new CSP using the number you want it to have. Remember at the beginning of this video when I said the cosmetic standardization project is not required, but highly recommended? That was because it is used for this method. In order to do the single set method, you need the pre-color smash textures from CS Project. I already have all the ones I need here in this folder, which I'll move the Waluigi texture to be able to import them all at once. Now, delete all the textures you'll be re-importing. Say yes to the prompt each time. Rename the CSPs you will be adding. Right-click on the MISC data, import color smashable textures, and select all the CSPs. Say yes, and CSPs should be the default 256 colors. After that, you want to export the MISC data for the result screen portraits, just like before. Stock icons are done in the exact same way. Rename all the files that will come after the new ones. Delete all the stocks you will be replacing. Rename all the stocks you will be importing. And import them as color smashable textures. Make sure you change the number of colors from 256 to 32. From there, the process becomes the same as it was for adding net new costumes. Generate the pat 0 for each one. Export the inf stock face file, then add the stocks to the other 3 locations, just like before. Keep in mind, when manually adding them for the results screen, you will need to rename the files after the new ones, just like for the multiplayer HUD and CSPs. The multi-set method relies on the exact same principles as the single set method, but instead of deleting and replacing existing textures, we will be leaving them alone and just adding new ones. For character selection portraits, follow the same renaming process as before. Then, instead of deleting the rest of the set, just rename the CSPs you will be adding and import them as color smashable textures. From there, export for the results screen and continue as before. Same thing for stock icons. Rename the existing textures just like before. Rename the new file. Import as color smashable. Change from 256 colors to 32. Generate the pat 0. Then export that for the results screen. Aside from those things, follow all the steps from adding net new costumes and you should be all set. To show how to replace a costume within an existing set, I will replace Brawl's Red Marth with Scarlet Marth by Layout. We are replacing a red team costume with another red team costume, so no masquerade edits are needed. One nice part about the mask files is that you can easily find the file name for the costume you want to replace. Then, go to the Characters Fighter folder and replace the old fighter file with the new one you're adding. For cosmetics, it's mostly the same as adding a new costume to an existing set. However, there is a slightly different process for character selection portraits and stock icons. You can use the single set method exactly the same as before, but the multi-set method requires an additional step. Plus, for changing an existing texture only, there is the replace method, which is the fastest and has the same quality possibilities as the multi-set method, but does use the most file space. For both the multi-set method and the replacement method, go to the texture above the one you're looking to replace. At the top of the texture's parameters, there is a value called shares data. This value needs to be set to false for the texture above the one you want to change first, and then for the one you are actually changing. Failure to do this has a high likelihood of corrupting textures within the color smash group. Once that's done, you are free to delete the texture and then continue with the multi-step method, or you can just right-click and replace it for the replace method. These same principles apply for stock icons. With that, we can test everything in-game. Inject your edited build onto an SD card and load it up. Just cycling through the character selection portraits shows that all the changes we made are here. The battle portraits and stock icons show up properly in a match. Everything's loaded correctly on the results screen. And Fox even has 4 unique team sets, just like we set up. And finally, for completion's sake, here are the optional stocks for the single player stuff. And that is the complete process to add costumes and cosmetics to Legacy TE 2.5. If there are any questions or problems, do not hesitate to reach out in our Discord server. That being said, I highly encourage you to read the blog post, experiment with the new tools, and explore how they function. We hope you enjoy Legacy TE 2.5. This is Kevin, signing off.